Never Again 41 asks, have you ever had a character in any medium start off as one of your least liked, only to make you a major fan later on? I had one in mind, but I just blanked.
Whereas I don't have any in mind right off the top of my head. Usually when I get into things, like, it's stuff that I have a sense I'll get into, so very rarely do I end up, confronted with, like, a character or something I don't like that I am surprised to be into. Although two aspects recently that pertain to anime, one is a series I just put up a full series review for, Rainbow, which had a character, the smallest sort of character in the main 7 characters is Turtle. And I felt like when I first saw the way they designed him, he kind of has like a Jimmy Olsen meets Dopey from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs aesthetic, in that he's got the big ears, he's very small in stature, he's freckle-faced, he's kind of dopey looking. I really felt rubbed the wrong way when I first laid eyes on that character. And lo and behold, as his story unfolds throughout the course of the series, I really came to like him a lot more than I thought. And another series that actually just wrapped up in the last week as of the time of this recording is Hibiki Euphonium. There's a character called Yuko who was a real bitch. And I mean, like, she was stuck up. And she's not even like a main character, but I was really genuinely surprised that when there's a sort of revelatory episode where you find that the things she's doing, the reason she has such a chip on her shoulder, is actually because she's motivated by having concerns for someone else. She wants the best for a friend, and she wants to make that friend's dreams come true. And she feels sort of the jealousy that friend probably ought to feel, because she's not really that kind of person. She doesn't feel selfish. She doesn't feel like, when she's told bad news, basically she just grins and bears it and moves on. And this friend is looking at her friend, the Yuko character's looking at her friend like, I want to make her dreams come true. It's not fair that she's fought this far and she failed. And so that was a character too where I almost to a seething point, I did not like the character, and I was genuinely flabbergasted that they would give us this revelatory episode. And again, it's a minor character. It's not like a standout character who's villainous and then all of a sudden, changes your expectation on them. She's a background character, but it was enough to go from not liking the character and even thinking of her as a bitch, as like, she should get her just desserts, and then realizing the motivations were actually selfless ones, and I had a complete sort of change. I thought very compassionately toward the character after those revelations. So, did you think of yours, or?
No, I still can't. Move on to the next question.
Right. Joe TJ Pyramid asks, you win $100,000. What is the first thing you buy with the money? And the first thing I'd want to buy with that kind of money would be a new car, because we don't have one. We desperately need one, health problems and everything like that. But as far as the first thing I'd actually buy, I'd probably walk to the nearest 7-Eleven and grab Mountain Dew Code Red or a Slurpee, something like that. Go grab a burger, I wouldn't try to be thinking big, crazy stuff. I mean,
I'd probably go take the bus down to the store and get a thing of sushi to celebrate.
Yeah, get a pizza.
Some Red Dew and
Yeah. It would be very modest, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, there would be things like get a car, get a house and stuff. I'd love an arcade cabinet. I'd love a life-size Robbie the Robot and all of those kinds of things. But very realistically, if I went and I cashed that money and I walked out, I'd probably go to the nearest convenience store, grab a drink, grab a candy bar. That'd be among the first things I'd actually probably buy. So
I would want to do, it sounds cliche to some people, and with a lot of people, it's bull. But open up a homeless shelter, try to get these food banks fixed a little bit to have fresher food so people don't get sick,
Yeah.
Stuff like that, like real, a
helpful
car,
stuff, yeah. Oh, you go next. Next question.
TJ Pyramid says MGS or Metal Gear Solid or Final Fantasy?
Wow. Oh, man. One or the other.
Yeah.
That, I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer that.
I would actually go Final Fantasy because I've been meaning to get into playing these games. And Metal Gear Solid is awesome. It rocks, don't get me wrong. But I already have a background of that game. So I'd want to play Final Fantasy because for me it would be like brand new and it's a role-playing game and it has like story to it. So it would kind of be like not just playing a game but like watching a movie. I've been meaning to get into playing too. So.
I think, and like if we both were confronted with that and she picked Final Fantasy, well naturally I'd pick Metal Gear so we'd be able to keep both. But I think I'm going to actually surprise myself and I think I'd actually go with Metal Gear.
Cool.
Like, as far as franchises go, like, if I had to pick one or the other, Final Fantasy or Metal Gear, don't get me wrong, I have a passion for Final Fantasy, but...
But, like, with you've played it through and through.
It's again, calling back on the replayability aesthetic. Just popping in the game and having fun, killing guards, messing with guards, that kind of thing. Like... I don't know, man. This is a really tough question because on the same coin, with Final Fantasy, you know that you would have hours and hours and hours and hours to play.
And you'd have to really listen to the storyline and stuff.
Well, not necessarily. There are people who play those games and they ignore that aspect. But I mean, oh man, like in the sense of a game that would be long lasting, because I think Final Fantasies 7 and 8, the hours of gameplay that I put into those games are like between 80 and 90 hours, I think. I don't remember exactly, but I mean, that's going after, all of the chocobos in Final Fantasy VII, breeding them, going after all of the special equipment, going after all of the...
You actually have to breed them?
Yeah, if you want to get the gold chocobo at one point, because he can travel like almost anywhere on the world map and stuff. Damn, I think you stumped me, man. I don't know. I don't know which one I could go with. I'm leaning toward... It would depend on my mood. I'd have to say, like, I can find valuable reasons to pick one or the other, but I never want to have to make that decision. I almost want to say Metal Gear Solid, just because I feel like that would be a game, even after 20 years, I could still pop it in and I could just play it and have fun with it. Whereas I feel like Final Fantasy is something that you have to be dedicated to playing it. You have to not just have the want to play a game. There's actually things that you have to do in it. There's things you have to unlock, and there's missions and side quests and all these things. While you'd have plenty to do, at some point, it might start lacking the fun element.
It's like I said, kind of like a storyline. Even though you don't have to necessarily listen to every little last bit, there's still an element there that you have to concentrate on.
Exactly, yeah. And there's not a lack of replayability, but there's a lack of necessarily having the fun factor, because your brain will have to be on in orchestrating the turn-based battles and unlocking things, like I say. And so, I don't know. I think off the top of my head, the best way I'm going to answer this question would be Metal Gear. It'd probably be my pick, and that would be as a franchise, not a specific game. All of the games in that franchise. I think that's the best way I'm going to answer that. Yeah. So, was that your question?
Yeah.
All right. So from Daniel Contreras, who is your favorite actor or actress and why? I guess we could pick one of each, like actor and actress.
Yeah, maybe.
I think, two actors that come to mind as being sort of like all-time favorites. One we lost not too long ago, Robin Williams, comedian, actor, powerhouse, and lifelong inspiration for me. He'd definitely be my top choice. I think following on from him, I'd probably go with like Robert De Niro. Just an all-around class act. Almost everything he's ever been in is enjoyable to me. Even sort of like the off-the-wall stuff. like what's that movie series, Meet the Fockers or whatever it is. Like, I don't have an interest in that really myself, but because he's in it, I'll watch it, you know.
Motherfucker.
Actress-wise, that's a good question. A modern actress I'm a big fan of is like Anne Hathaway, who I never would have even thought of actually having much talent until I started seeing her in, like, you know, what is it, Dark Knight Rises as Catwoman, and a few other things here or there that, like, you know, like my first thing that I ever saw her related to was Princess Diaries or whatever that crap is. And like you know, I would have thought, okay, well, this is like a up and coming Disney actress, doesn't have any talent. And whoa, would I have been wrong? I've been proven wrong. Another movie that she's in, I love the Get Smart film.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, with Steve Carell.
Yeah. So who would you pick, like, favorite actor and actress? Just off the top of your head, doesn't have to be your all-time favorite, but I mean,
Scarlett Johansson. I have a crush on her. And all right, next question from Howard Martin. Your favorite TV series?
Star Trek.
Are you afraid of the dark?
And let me specify the original series Star Trek, or Enterprise is my second all-time favorite. You would think Doctor Who would be the top, but I honestly, just because I've had the longer history with Star Trek, that'll be my sort of knee-jerk
that
response.
was what I remember you watching first and foremost as a kid.
Yeah.
You watched Star Trek like after school or before bed, you know.
Yeah. So, pretty simple answer to that one. From Joe TJ Pyramid, if you could rewrite any movie, what would it be and why? It would depend on if by rewrite you mean like do sort of a reboot or a remake kind of thing. Like, I wouldn't want to necessarily undo a film. But then again, with that in mind, with that aspect in mind, if I wanted to sort of remake an original movie and not like actually do a reboot or a, you know, a new version of an old film, I would love to have, let's say, the editing rights on Star Trek the Motion Picture, just because there are aspects of that film that are way too long. There are some scenes that really needed editing.
Really not.
Going into V'ger, that entire sequence, it's like, cut it down to one frickin' scene, you know? We don't need all of these giant, you know, orifices opening and closing, and the Enterprise and the crew being all like...
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, for like an hour, just for that one part. I wouldn't want to rewrite the film necessarily. Maybe jovial it up a little bit, maybe bring some of that, you know, character that, you know, the triumvirate of Spock, Kirk, and McCoy from the original series, maybe re-inflame that film with that, bring some color into it. I think that'd probably be my choice. As far as a movie I would like to reboot, rewrite, I would love to have my hand at doing a retelling of Psycho. Because I've had a lot of different ideas. I actually have a note that I saved from a couple years back on Facebook where I was playing around with the idea of how would I reinterpret Psycho, and I would kind of like want to throw it on its ear, be something completely different than what it was. And I think, you know, like if you're going to try to rewrite something or remake something, have the essence of whatever it originally was, but then expound from there. So like, as far as going back and touching up a film that already exists, I'd go the motion picture, definitely. I would love to re-edit that and, again, interject some of the personality and character of the, you know, the cast, basically. Okay.
Never Again 41. Do you have any tips on getting into writing at least somewhat professional level?
Well, not as yet being a professional paid writer. There's only so much I can answer that with. Some of the better advice I'd gotten in the past and that I was actually working toward when I could print out my written works and everything was like to go to a bookstore, newsstand, look for like Writer's Digest and those kinds of things, or like anthology publications. because usually somewhere in those they have a listing of where you can submit story entries and things like that for consideration to be published. Now, professionally, I've been told and have heard from writers that one step you want to get involved with is, it's like a two-part thing. One is you want to have somebody copy edit your work, submit it to a copy editor. Sometimes you have to like hire them, and or get like a literary agent kind of situation, somebody who can pimp out your works. And I haven't gotten to that point myself. It's actually been a long time since I sat down and was actually, being a working writer, just because with the financial issues that we both have and everything, maintaining being able to have a printer that works and everything. Even though nowadays, you can get a flash drive and you can go bring your, manuscript to a Kinko's and have them printed for you.
Yeah, but it's not quite the same. Plus, I don't think I'd want my work.
I feel like it's risky. The copyright aspect, somebody stealing your idea, it's risky.
You're taking it into public with complete strangers, trusting them to print it out. I'd rather just have like a typewriter, an old-fashioned typewriter, and click clack all day.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I wouldn't turn down that idea, especially in the fact, like I say, I have a laptop. It's kind of on its last legs, unfortunately, but the printer I had died long ago. And it's just kind of like that and other aspects of life. The chief thing you want to do, the chief advice I can give you if you have aspirations to write, is just write. Find time, even if it's just writing a few paragraphs a day. Try to get yourself to write a page a day maybe, if not more, because I mean, somebody once told me, write a page a day. In a year you have a manuscript, like a full novel. 365 pages or whatever.
And to me, it'll always be the pencil and paper.
Yeah. Well, I do that too. Pen, paper, pencil, paper. It's just, that's the chief thing that I've kind of lost my way personally, is just keeping at it, keeping at writing. But as far as when you want to branch out and you want to start submitting things, I have submitted manuscripts of usually only a couple pages in length, because most magazine publications, they don't need them to be that long, and they usually have a page limit, or how many lines, how many words, whatever it is, that they're looking for. But you want to go and find anthology publication magazines and writing magazines, because there are always sort of, I don't want to call them classifieds, but kind of similar to that, where you can submit stories and such like that. And the first couple dozen that I've ever submitted, put out there in the world, that's the avenue I went. And basically I only had one out of a bunch of them ever published. Most of them came back with corrections or this, that, or the other thing, or just sorry, we're not looking for this isn't what we're looking for right now. So definitely perseverance is a big part of it. Don't be dismayed from your first or several turn downs.
Definitely never let anyone tell you how to write your stories.
I mean, what you need to basically do is look at the things you enjoy reading, or kind of have a loose template in your mind as to the kinds of things you like, the way you want to write. The kind of writing style or the format you want to go toward, but don't lose your voice in the mix. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to use someone else's style. And like I say, keep at it. That's the biggest thing it's my own advice that I really need to get back on top of myself. I need to get back into writing, because it's been a really long time, especially with YouTube and doing the reviews and everything. It's been a long time since I even scripted a review. I mean, that's another sort of aspect of where you can, sort of experiment with writing chops. And always be ready to improve yourself. Like I say, kind of stemming off the idea of don't fall to disapproval, don't falter, don't be dismayed and not want to continue it if you're told, hey, this wasn't really that good, or this isn't what we're looking for. You're going to get that most of the time. But it's kind of a combination of all those things, and wanting to do it professionally, like I say, it's kind of a slow start. But if you kind of get your sea legs getting short stories out there and that kind of thing, because you want to, I guess the aspect of doing that is to build a, sort of like a backlog of published works. You want to be able to say that, hey, I have published. When you want to start focusing on going to bigger publications, or maybe you have a novel manuscript, I think those are easier to sell if you have a history as being a published writer. That's one of the things where it's hard to get into being published. I mean, that's the hardest kind of hurdle. But I don't think it matters where you publish as long as you are published, and you can have that.
You have proof that says, "Hey, I."
Yeah, like when you're going to a job and you fill out your job history and you talk about everywhere you've worked, you want to have something that says this guy or girl has experience on some level, and so I mean that's pretty much the best way I can answer that. I'm going to give you the last two questions on this sheet because I got the last sheet as well. I'll go next though. From Daniel Contreras, if you had the ability to live in any anime series as the main character, which one would it be and why? And even though this is similar to a question we already answered, this one specifies anime series, and I guess like my sort of knee-jerk reaction would be to pick one of my top favorites, which is like Cowboy Bebop or Ghost in the Shell, just because they seem like fun, interesting worlds, and I would love to be a badass like Spike Spiegel, and even in the sense that I'm a guy and the major Motoko Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell is a woman. On a psychological level, the way that character is written, on an emotional level, there have been so many things in my own mind that I feel like I have a connection to that character. So, I mean, getting away from physical visage, and I mean, she's wearing a cyber chassis anyway, so could switch out the genders and such like that. But I mean, I would probably pick one of those two characters, one of those two anime series to experience living in, just because it'd be really interesting and really cool to be somebody like Spike, who is physically fit, and he really he doesn't give any F's whatsoever. He's very much a whatever happens kind of guy. That's a quote that it's one of my favorite all-time quotes of his, and just roll with the punches and be able to get out of so many of life's rigmarole situations time and again, and have fun doing it. Be surrounded by awesome characters, the goofiness of Ed, the sort of, you could almost look up to Jet, be attracted to Faye in my case. And even though Spike isn't that way, he's got Julia and whatever like that, but those would be my picks, kind of those aesthetics. What about you? Any anime series you'd want to live in and become the main character in? Like, if you could?
I don't know.
Okay. She don't know. So, moving on. Next
question, Violet Fire. If you were the third Blues brother, would your name be Johnny Blues or something else?
I love this question. The interesting, to give a little insight about like the whole Jake Blues, Elwood Blues, Johnny Blues thing. When I was doing with a couple of friends the Blues Brothers tribute thing, some of you may or may not be familiar with that story, but in the middle to late 90s, in very small family and friend-oriented venues, a couple of friends and I were performing in like a tribute group. We were very much in the practicing stages. It wasn't like we were going to be doing any big-time venues or anything. The original sort of emphasis was we were Jake and Elwood. We were going to be like, not parodies of those characters, but homages to those characters. And there came a time where I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to try to be someone else's character, in this case, Belushi and Aykroyd. I was starting to realize that one of my partners at the time wasn't taking it seriously and wasn't, even though he was all talk about learning the harmonica, learning the performance, dance steps and everything like that. Basically, I called it into question, are we going to be able to embody doing a sort of tribute act? And it was not looking realistic. So because at the time, with friends and family, I was being referred to as the blues man because I really was just like a stickler for all of the real world as well as fictional histories of the characters, their backgrounds, all the band members and everything. There's a book called Blues Brothers Private, which I have, which kind of, in the vein of being reprinted real documents about like Jake and Elwood when they were first brought to the orphanage, who they were left there by, that they aren't really blood brothers and everything, to the book actually you guys, you, Joe, and Tina sent me, telling a fictional history of the Blues Brothers and like all those kinds of things. I was very much into the minutia of all of that. Somebody could ask me, okay, well, when was the second performance of Jake and Elwood on SNL? And I could tell you the date. And I could tell you all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't remember any of that stuff anymore. But when I began to think about it and think, like, I want to be me. I want to show my love for music and the Blues Brothers. That's where taking my own name and sort of, as I made a post on FB not too long ago about, I said, I married the concept with the reality. I'm Johnny, but I wanted to take on the name Blues. And so Johnny Blues was effectively born. And in thinking about, like, if I ever had the opportunity to, like, be a third Blues Brother, it would be probably really weird to be Johnny Blues as Johnny Blues, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When I first conceived of the idea, I actually had a nickname and I had created it in mind to be a character. Johnny the Hurricane Blues was what the character was going to be called, and the hurricane reference was going to be because he lives in the southern part of the country rather than Chicago, where the original Blues Brothers are from, but also because of the way he sings. It's like a hurricane, And so that was the character that first burgeoned in my mind. In all honesty, I don't know. I don't know if it would work out to be Johnny Blues as Johnny Blues. It would probably be weird. I'd probably want to, like Aykroyd is still around, I'd probably want to talk to him, or if it was a scenario where I was alive back when, Belushi and Aykroyd were doing it, it would have to be a communal thing where we all came to a decision. And maybe I'd be a different character or something like that, really a interesting, sort of intriguing question to think about, though, because, I mean, like I've said many times, with me, what you see is what you get. Johnny Blues, it's not meant to be a character, like maybe even though that was how I first conceived it. It's just really me. I love the Blues Brothers. I'm a geek. I love music. So, I mean, I don't know that could be transformed necessarily into a character. I'd probably try to bring it back to that early concept if I was going to keep the name as a character as well as my real name. So, very interesting question, though. Definitely had to make me think with that one. So I guess the next question. Superman is Best asks, who would you like to see cast as Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, Martian Manhunter, or Shazam for the future DC Cinematic Universe? And I really love what I've been hearing rumor-wise as of the time of this recording about Chris Pine playing like a Hal Jordan. And I think Tyrese or somebody is, has been at least hinting that he might be the Jon Stewart Green Lantern. Those really excite me. Like, I know Pine has also been rumored as maybe being Steve Trevor in the Wonder Woman film. But I would love to see him actually as Hal Jordan. I think he'd be a perfect fit for that. And I wouldn't look any further than that. As far as Martian Manhunter and Shazam, you got me. I don't know. Like, there are so many names that I probably could go with. Idris Elba, actually, for a lack of his playing Jon Stewart, I would love to see him play Manhunter. If they, like I say, if they don't go for him for a Green Lantern, which is something that was long rumored and everything, and I feel like he has the gravitas and the overall look that would be really befitting of Manhunter. For Shazam, that is one of the things I've had the most discussions about with people. I really don't know, because what it comes back to for me is we know The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is playing Black Adam, and it's kind of like baffling when you try to, come up with who could play off that villain, and as a hero, who could match that. I don't know, man. I draw blanks, honestly.
Yeah, really.
I would be willing to entertain anyone's suggestion in, the comments or whatever, for a potential Shazam actor. But really, I'm stumped, because I'd be equating it with who would be able to go toe-to-toe and make me believe they could carry their own with The Rock. Unless an actor could do that, I don't know. I really have no idea. Do you have any more? One more question?
One more is from Mike Hattersley. Which European country would you like to visit if you have the choice? Italy.
Italy? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go there.
I don't know if Italy's my first choice, because I'm a Whovian. I might want to go to, England, the UK. In the grand scheme of things, I'd really love to visit all of Europe. France, Italy, the UK, Germany, all those kinds of things. But I think my first choice would probably be, even though our heritage is Italian, and that's always been a lifelong aspiration to go and visit Italy, I think I'd go with the UK probably, just because of, like I say, the whole Whovian thing. I would hope I would have millions of dollars to go to Forbidden Planet and buy it out of all its Doctor Who goodies. And so from Joe TJ Pyramid, America decides to do a version of Doctor Who. What actor do you cast in the lead role, and what actress do you cast as the companion? I suck at picking actors and actresses for things off the top of my head. I'd really have to think about it. But one way I would answer this is I would completely undo the way you've laid it out here. If America was going to do a version of Doctor Who, I wouldn't want to see a guy in the lead role. There's been so much talk about making the Doctor a woman, or casting a woman to play the Doctor, that it kind of falls back on what we were talking about as far as reinventing or rewriting or recreating or editing a film that already exists, or trying to reboot a property that already exists. I would want to adhere to the essence of Doctor Who, but do something completely whack, completely different. I'd want a female Doctor in the lead. I have no idea who I would cast.
There's so many choices out there.
Yeah, and as far as I would want two companions. I might loosely fall in line with how Doctor Who started back in the 60s. I wouldn't want an elderly woman in the Doctor role, like Hartnell was, but I would probably want a male and female companion. Or set of companions, and you can make them school teachers, you can make them students, whatever it is. But yeah, while I can't think of any names off the top of my head, I know wholeheartedly if I was in charge of doing an Americanized version of it, don't do it the same. Do something different, make it unique, make it something that doesn't conform too closely to what's already been done, but still has that essence, because you want it to be recognizable as that thing, as Doctor Who. But I would be daring enough to put a woman in the lead role, and like I say, have a couple companions, male and female. Okay, so the next question is, Howard, what other country would you like to visit? This we already touched with, based with the European countries. But the reason why I kept this on here as a separate question is because this doesn't, focus in on just European. And my top pick would be Japan. Just being an anime fan and having an interest in their culture and their history, off the wall though some aspects of it may be. Japan would be my first non-European country I could think of wanting to visit. What about you?
I don't know.
Well, you've often said Japan. Would you choose that?
Yeah, I'd go to Greece. Well, that's the European country, right?
But I mean, you
Japan,
don't have to.
Yeah, because I know they got a lot of sushi there.
No, you don't have to not say a European one. I'm just saying.
No, I know. But I'd definitely go to Japan.
All right, so the last two questions we got here. Never Again 41 asks, what do you think about the fact that I couldn't come up with a fifth question? But that was a fifth question, man. You're trying to fool us. I don't know. Whatever. All right, so the final question, I'm going to let you read the final question. Because this one's interesting, and this one's going to pertain to the end of this video. We better say our goodbyes now. Thank you to everyone who submitted these questions. You absolutely flabbergasted me with so many questions, and especially on my secondary channel where there's not even as many subscribers, followers, whatever you want to say. But every single one of you who stopped long enough to watch that video, to post these comment questions, you completely flabbergasted me and just made my day when I saw so many questions. And the fact that the sis wanted to get involved. So for this final question, pay attention, pay close attention, because there's something coming into play with the end of this video.
TJ Pyramid, red button or blue button, which do you push and what does it do?
Okay, red button, and here's what it does.